So now I'm going to introduce the better speaker of the group, Brian Larson, and he's going to tell you all about Power BI. Thank you, Brian.
Sure. Thank you, Nicole. So how many are currently using Power BI in your organizations? 1, 2, 3. All right, good. So this will be how many have looked at it, seen a demo, or had a chance to play with it? All right, a few more. Very good. The goal for today is to talk about how Power BI, what Power BI is, define that a little better, and then talk about how Power BI can be used within your organizations. And there are several different ways that Power BI can be utilized in several different architectures that can be set up for working with Power BI. So we want to define that. We'll do some demoing along the way, but this is not going to be a Power BI how-to session. We want to talk more about the business side of things. I do like to have very interactive sessions, so as you have questions as I'm going along, please raise a hand or give a shout out if I'm looking down, and don't be afraid to chime in, because if you're not sure about a particular thing or have something you want clarified, other people in the room are going to have that same question as well, so please speak up. So our agenda today, we're going to talk a little bit about what is business intelligence, and that will help us define the role that Power BI can play within your organization. And then we'll talk a little bit about Microsoft's business intelligence tools that they're focusing on right now. They have a number of business intelligence data visualization reporting tools that Microsoft offers. And so it's a little confusing on how these all fit together, so we'll try and clarify that a little bit, and then get into the specifics of Power BI. So Power BI is a set of tools. It's a set of tools under one name, Power BI, and we'll talk more, give a little bit of the background of those tools, the history of those tools that have come together to become the Power BI product offering from Microsoft. And we want to, Power BI is designed to provide business users. This is not primarily an IT-focused tool. It is a business user-focused tool. That doesn't mean that techies are not going to be using it to create visualizations and models and content. But the focus is on the business user. And the focus is to provide self-service business intelligence capabilities. And we'll talk a little bit about what is self-service BI and how does that fit the role. So business intelligence, real quickly here to make sure we're on the same page. The way that I define business intelligence is the delivery of accurate, useful information to the appropriate decision makers and in the necessary time frame for supporting effective decision making. So all of those things are necessary. Accurate information delivered to the appropriate people in the appropriate time frame, and if we do that, we're going to get better decision making within our organizations. So business intelligence, the typical business intelligence flow is something like this. We've got lots of data out here in various repositories. We have our own internal data, our databases, our sales system, our order processing system, our manufacturing system, our accounting system. All of that resides internally, information about the past of the organization. We have external data nowadays that we may want to pull in and use in our analysis. That might be, the weather history. If we have, sales that are dependent on weather patterns, it might be email sources, other types of things. And then we also have, emails down here. And then we have email and social media that we may want to pull in. We want to look at, what are people thinking about our organization, about a particular product, a particular service that the organization provides. So we want to pull in the Twitter feed. We want to pull in, Facebook comments and do some sentiment analysis on those types of things. So a multitude of data sources. It's not just our internal data anymore. We need to also consider, are there external data sources out there, structured or unstructured, that we want to pull in order to support our decision making within our organizations. So the first thing we need to do is gather that information into some type of repository. And then in most cases, we want to put some type of a model over the top of that, some type of a metadata layer that is going to allow the business user to view that information in a way that they are used to dealing with it. They don't want to see all these abbreviated, underscored field names and table names and whatever our internal databases might look like with 500 hyper-normalized tables for our ERP system. That's not what we want to inflict upon our business users. So we're going to create some type of a model so they can deal with that information with the names and the relationships already baked into it in the way that they're used to seeing it. And we also, in that model, want to capture some of the business rules, as much of the business rules as we can. So those important calculations, cost of goods sold, et cetera, are in the model. They're not recalculated in every spreadsheet and every report and every visualization that we have out there. We capture it in one place and then allow our business users to grab it from that model and use it over and over again. And that makes sure that we have consistency of those calculations and definitions throughout all of our reporting and data visualization. So once we have a model, we want to take that data and visualize it and analyze it, whether that's going to be dashboards, that's going to be charting, that's going to be reports, that's going to be interactive exploration of the data. It may also be some type of advanced analytics, predictive analytics with a tool like R or SAS, where we're going to explore the data with some type of mathematical modeling, as well as the interactive exploration and the reporting that may be available. And finally, it doesn't do much good if we create all that if we don't share it with others. So we need to have a mechanism for putting it out there and allowing our business users to get at that data. And in fact, these days, it may be that we're not only sharing that data internally to our business users, but we might be sharing that data with our business partners. It might be that we're sharing that data with customers. There may be lots of ways that we want to make some of that business intelligence data visualization public. Now, typically, traditionally, in a business intelligence environment, the IT staff has been the one that has created all of this up until the point where it gets shared with the business users. We gather the data, we create models, we create reports and dashboards, and then finally we throw something over the wall to the user. The problem is that there tended to be a slow turnaround for producing new content in these situations. And it's not that the IT staff didn't know what they were doing or were incompetent in any way. It's that there are so many more business users looking for content than there are IT staff. At least that's been my experience in most of the organizations that I've worked for. So the IT staff gets overwhelmed very quickly. So now the concept comes along that we want to empower some of these business users to take on some of this workload. Because we have some power users out there, and we have some business users that have a pretty deep knowledge of the data that is coming through this process, so they can do some of their own visualization and exploration, and in some cases they can do some of their own modeling. So we have self-service analytics, and this is my definition of self-service analytics, where the IT staff is still gathering the data and creating that model, and then the model or models are shared out to the business user, and the business user can do their own exploration and visualization off of that model that has been published. So in this type of a setup, the IT staff is still responsible for that data integrity. They're still responsible for the accuracy of the data in the model. If the process to gather and load the data into the model fails, the IT staff is still responsible for responding to that and getting things working again. But we have offloaded some of that process so that the business user can look at the visualization, they can react to what they're seeing in the data, create a new visualization, drill down, explore, and publish that data as needed. And that helps things flow much quicker. We also have self-service business intelligence, and this is moving things even farther back down the road. So now the IT staff is responsible for maintaining those internal systems, but we're going to, and then there is some mechanism for sharing, allowing some type of read-only access to that underlying data. Might be a read-only copy of the data, so we're not allowing our ad hoc users to put undue stress on our line of business system. But there's some mechanism to share that internal data in a secure way. And we have a select set of business users who are pretty technology savvy, that understand the data very well. And they're the ones that are going to gather the internal data along with any external data that they need. They're going to create the model, and then they're going to do their own visualization and analysis. So that's self-service business intelligence. Power BI can play both ways. Power BI as a tool has one approach to connecting with the data that supports that self-service analytics, where there's an existing model, and Power BI is going to utilize that model. Power BI also has all of the tools built in. I said it's multiple tools rolled together under one name. It has all of the tools built in to gather and model and visualize, so it can play in this self-service business intelligence space as well. Microsoft, as I said, has a number of business intelligence and reporting tools available right now, and it either got better or got worse, depending on your perspective, with the release of SQL Server 2016. SQL Server 2016 added 2 new items to this list. But this is really the set of tools that Microsoft is focusing on, is putting their development efforts into right now. These are the tools that are getting new features going forward. There are some other tools. Performance Point Services is one example in SharePoint that really is not getting any TLC from Microsoft anymore. It's still a product. It's still supported, but there's no new development going on in that area. So you can see the handwriting on the wall that that's probably not going to be around indefinitely. And you want to focus any new efforts, especially on this tool set. So we've got reporting services, paginated reports, and that's the traditional reporting services that has been around since since about 2003. How many use reporting services in their enterprises? All right, a few. You do. Okay. So reporting services is great at creating those fixed reports. I need the report to look just like this. I need it to fit on an 8.5 by 11 page nicely, or I need it to export to a PDF or a PowerPoint slide, but something that is page oriented and set. The content is set beforehand. I've got some parameters. I can select some date ranges and those types of things, but the content is set when that report is first created and published. Reporting Services Mobile Reports is a new product in SQL Server 2016. This is a report authoring environment that is specifically designed for creating reports for smaller footprints. Reports to be displayed on a smartphone, reports to be displayed on a tablet. It's a very capable authoring environment, but it is limited to that type of a delivery mechanism. That's really what it is pointing for. It's not going to create a report that's going to be printed out for you or exported to PDF, those types of things. Also new in SQL 2016, Reporting Services has some dashboarding capabilities that's now built right into the report web portal, what used to be the report manager. So we can create some very basic dashboards right there within where our users go to receive their reports. And then we get down to Power BI, of course. We're going to talk a lot more about that. And finally, Excel pivot tables and pivot charts. Good old Excel. Excel is not going away. Too many people love Excel. Too many people live in Excel day in and day out. So there is still a mechanism for pulling data into tables and charts in Excel and doing that type of ad hoc analysis and data exploration. So focus is on paginated reports. Focus is on mobile delivery here. Focus is on primarily that interactive ad hoc exploration of the data in Excel here. You can create some reports, you can create very nice dashboards with Excel, but the focus is on that individual ad hoc data exploration. Any questions on that?
How committed is Microsoft and Power BI? For a while they were like kind of half foot in and
That's a great question.
Are they all in or not?
Microsoft is definitely all in Power BI. So Power BI now, we'll talk about this a little more later. Power BI has a release cycle of every month. There are new features that are published, production features that are published every month in Power BI. Yesterday was a new release, which makes it really great when you're preparing a Power BI demonstration and there's a new product that hits the market a day before the presentation. So they're definitely committed. Power BI, if you look, and we'll talk some about the history here in just a moment. Power BI is Microsoft's competitor to Tableau, ClickView, some of the other types of business intelligence tools, data analytics tools that are out there right now, pyramid analytics. And that is one of the reasons why Microsoft went to that month delivery cycle, so that they can be very agile, they can listen to the community and get those new features into the product so that they remain very competitive in that space. So yeah, definitely all in. Definitely all in on Power BI.
Ryan, just a quick question, or maybe this will come up as you go on, is just to I've got a lot of users that are very savvy at Excel, and then some are not. And it seemed like Microsoft was pushing that Excel be that tool. So as we talk about this, if you could help us understand the differences between Power BI and Excel.
I will do that. I will do that. And if I don't remind you, that's a great question. Yep. Yep. In fact, let's move into that, and some of that will come up in the next few slides here. So this is a little different way of looking at those 5 different data visualization products here. And what holds them all together is the SQL Server Analysis Services architecture in the middle. So if you choose to, you don't have to implement analysis services to utilize any of these 5 tools. But if you choose to, you can use SQL Server Analysis Services, which is part of the SQL Server license if you run it on the same box. And then you can create data models that live in this enterprise server environment. And now you can point any of these tools and all of these tools at the same data model. And like I said, we want to pull as much of the structure and the business calculations and those rules into the model. So whether I'm creating a report and reporting services paginated, or whether I'm exploring the data in Power BI or creating a dashboard with the KPIs there, I pull the same calculation out of the model and put it in there. So if that calculation needs to change, it changes in the model, and then that change is reflected everywhere it's used. So those models there that live in analysis services on the enterprise level are really what kind of pulls all that together and allows an enterprise to make use of all 5 of those different tools without going absolutely completely nuts. All right, so the Power BI Toolset. So we talked about the different parts of the BI process. Gathering and modeling the data, we're visualizing and analyzing the data, we're sharing the data. So let's look at what's in the toolbox here that allows us to do each of these things. Power Query was a tool that was originally created as an add-in for Excel. And it allowed a user to take data from an environment and manipulate that data to get it into a format that was going to play nice when users when we tried to build a model from it, and when users tried to query and visualize and analyze that data. So it allows us to change the data as it is pulled into the model. If anyone has worked with SQL Server integration services or any other ETL, data extract, transform, and load tools, that's what Power Query is. It's a data extract, transform, and load tool. So it started life in Excel and then got pulled out of Excel. Still exists, still available as an add-in to Excel. So you can create your modeling that way. But it also got pulled out and became a part of Power BI. Power Pivot is a modeling tool. It has the capability to go out and fetch data from other sources and bring it into the model, but it can't do any massaging of that data as it comes into the model. So it can grab data as is, bring it in, and then it defines the model around that. It defines the relationships of the data. It captures all of those business rules in various calculations, in various measures within the data model. So that's the modeling tool. It's really a compact version of that analysis services server that we saw in the last slide that supports the operation of the data in a model environment. To visualize then, Power Pivot started again in Excel. It was an add-in to Excel, still available as an add-in to Excel, and has been pulled out from there. Power View bounced around a number of different places. Power View is a data visualization platform. It is designed to be 1 or 2 clicks to presentation-ready graphics. That was its mantra as it was being developed. And it really does do that. As soon as you put data on your layout, it is in a nice format and ready to go up on the board with the projector. So PowerView started out as a reporting environment in SharePoint. And then it got pulled from and it still exists in SharePoint, still available in SharePoint. Then it got pulled into Excel as a data visualization add-in to Excel, especially working with Power Pivot models that were created in Excel. And finally, it became part of the Power BI desktop. Power Q&A is an English language query tool. So I can ask questions of the data. What were the total sales for fiscal year 2015? And there is an analyzer that will figure that out, will take that, it will look at the data model, it will determine what I'm actually asking for, and it will present a table of data, or more likely a chart of data, in an attempt to answer that question. And if your model is set up right, it works pretty well. That started out in Office 365 in the implementation of Power BI in Office 365. Okay, now we need to share our data as well, and we've got the Power BI website for that. The sharing started in SharePoint, some various ways to share Power Pivot models and Power View visualizations in SharePoint. Then it went and became a part of Office 365 online, and now we have the PowerBI.com website. And finally, the Power BI app. So there are native apps for Windows 10, for Android, and for Apple, so that you can run that native app and point it at PowerBI.com and pull down your visualizations, view the data on that mobile device in a very nice environment.
How does the Power BI mobile app mesh with the SSRS 2016 mobile platform?
It's actually the viewer, the native mode viewer for viewing reports that are created by the reporting services mobile report publisher, that authoring environment. So it becomes the native app both for viewing Power BI content and for viewing the mobile reports within reporting services. So in that case, you would point it at a reporting services server, and it will present that data for you, that visualization for
So
you.
you have to choose either?
You can, right.
So if we get users that need a dashboard, do they use the same app as the...
Yes, I believe we can go both. We can go both. I'm not. Yeah. Let's talk about
Brian?
Yeah.
What I'm not seeing is Power BI desktop. Is that coming up or part
Hold
of it?
that thought. Yep. Hold that thought. All right. So, got all these items, and now we've got 3 locations that these items live in our current implementation of Power BI. We've got Power BI Desktop, the desktop authoring application. We've got the Microsoft Cloud, and we've got our mobile devices. So let's send these things to where they live now. So Power Query, Power Pivot, Power View, all found a home in Power BI Desktop, in that authoring environment. Then once we create content with the Power BI Desktop, that content, when we want to share it, gets moved up to the Microsoft Cloud, to PowerBI.com. There is some browser-based analysis, authoring, visualization, exploration that's available through PowerBI.com as well. So some of this, or much, if not all of this functionality, this authoring functionality, is also available in a browser-based interface through the Microsoft Cloud, PowerBI.com. The Power Q&A now lives on PowerBI.com. If you want to use that feature, then you have to have your model deployed to PowerBI.com in order to use that English language interaction. And of course, the Power BI app, the native apps live on various mobile devices. So that's how things have finally found a home, and I think, with Microsoft, you're never sure. I think this is going to be the architecture that we're going to see moving forward. But that's just my opinion. I don't have any inside knowledge on that. Yeah.
So what I'm seeing is like Power Query, Power Pivot, Power View. I don't see Excel. So you feel that it's kind of moving out of Excel, and they should be using Power BI Desktop and things like that to be able to do those types of things.
That's a great question. So, these things all still are available as add-ins in Excel. It is more difficult. So one of the ways to choose is, how is the user going to ultimately share that content? Are they just doing things for themselves, or maybe a select few? Then Excel works fine for that. If you have SharePoint with Power Pivot Gallery set up in SharePoint, then you've got a mechanism to take that Excel content and share it in a structured manner through the SharePoint Power Pivot Galleries. If you don't have SharePoint set up, or if the users want to disseminate that information fairly broadly throughout the organization, or maybe even outside of the organization, then Power Pivot Desktop is going to be a better mechanism for creating a file that can be deployed and shared in a more structured environment in an easier manner. You don't want users making multiple copies of Excel files across every desktop in the organization to share content. We don't want that. So then we're back to the Excel hell that we've been trying to escape for forever. So they are still both there. The Excel environment is still getting new features. I think I would certainly say this environment gets the new features first. This is always going to be the leader in what's new as far as capabilities within the Power BI arena. There is, for those organizations that are not excited about having data and content sitting out here in the Microsoft Cloud, there is an on-premises solution. In fact, there's a couple of them. So if we take cloud out of the picture, we can create an on-premises server. This is the on-premises server here. So much of the functionality of the Power BI website can be found in an on-premises solution here. Much, but not all. Power QA is not going to be available on premises. And the two on-premises servers that are available currently are, well, I shouldn't say that. Let me rephrase that. The single on-premises solution that is available currently is through Pyramid Analytics. A Pyramid Analytics server will allow you to take content that was created in the Power BI Desktop publishing and authoring environment and deploy it to that server, and then share that content throughout your organization. In the very near future, the reporting services server will be able to perform the same function. There is a very early preview of that capability that's available right now It's actually available in an Azure environment because it was an environment they could encapsulate and structure very nicely to get some very early capabilities out there. But the reporting services team that is their focus right now, is being able to integrate Power BI onto a reporting services server on premises.
Right, but you're very near, I know there's no dates, but my understanding is that should come in vNext, which is.
It will come before vNext. It will come before vNext. It'll come in an R2 or a service pack or something. It won't wait for vNext. Unless vNext does come in the next year. If somebody told me, I don't want to write another book in the next year. So we'll see. But my understanding is that as soon as it's ready, it will be pushed out in some type of interim release. That it won't wait for SQL Server vNext.
So if it's all on-premise then so then the mobile apps will connect to the on-prem?
Correct. The mobile app would have to have a path back to on-prem.
And then, so the $9.99 a month
That goes away. That goes away. Yep. So right now, you can use the cloud service for free until you exceed certain limits, and then it's $9.99 a month per user. So yes, but an on-premises solution, then the licensing for Pyramid or for reporting services is what covers your usage of Power BI. Microsoft's goal now is to be able to have you choose the right tool regardless of, or irregardless of, whichever word you like best, of where the data is going to be stored. If you think about Office, Microsoft Office, you don't choose, if I'm going to create a table, I don't choose whether to do that in Excel or do that in Word, or I can even create a table in PowerPoint. I don't choose the tool based on where I'm going to store that resulting file. I choose the tool on what's going to work best. You want to be able to, have it within a document, then I'm going to use Word. If I want to have it, in a very nice analytical environment, I'm going to use Excel. Microsoft is working toward the same thing with the BI tools, the data visualization tools. You shouldn't have to choose the tool based on whether I'm going to store it in the cloud or on premises or in SharePoint or blah, blah, blah. I should choose the right tool and then store it where it makes the most sense for my organization. So we're working in that direction. We're not there yet, but that's the goal. Great. Any other questions on that? Okay. Let's do a quick demo then. So we'll jump out of here and we're going to go over to the Power BI desktop, which I've got, there it is. We'll start that up. There's my cat. We are cat sitting for my brother-in-law, and so their cat and my cat were running around and jumping on the piano keys and hissing at each other at about 1:30 in the morning last night. It was great. It was great. All right, so I've started up Power BI Desktop, and so this is the authoring environment. I get this nice startup screen that's going to come up here first and try and help me get started with what I want to do. And in this first demo, I'm going to use Power BI as just the data visualization piece. So I'm going to access an existing model that lives on analysis services, on an analysis services server. I'm going to make use of all the metadata, all the business rules, everything that's defined in that model. And I'm using Power BI as my visualization and data exploration tool. So we'll say I'm going to get the data and the source, so that now here's my various data sources that are available within Power BI. and you can see there are a number of them. So these are the various file types that I can pull in. Excel and comma separated, JSON now. I can even use the contents of a folder as a data source. So it's going to show each file is going to be an entry of data in there, as well as a SharePoint folder. Various database systems, so SQL, Access, Oracle, DB2, MySQL, all kinds of various types here. Of course, Azure is well represented, all of the various different types of structured and big data and unstructured types of sources that are available in the Microsoft Cloud can be accessed and used here. Various online sources, so things like Dynamics, Facebook, if we want to do that sentiment analysis, lots of various online services that Power BI knows how to interact with and go and get the data. Google Analytics there, and then some others here, web, SharePoint lists, Active Directory, and then we get down to if you've got an ODBC or an OLADB driver for your data, you can pull and utilize that as well. So we have lots and lots and lots of sources that we can take advantage of.
The
Yeah.
SharePoint list, is that also available for SharePoint, 2013, or just, was it 15?
I believe it's available. I believe that will work with 2013. I believe it will. All right, so we're going to go to analysis services. As I said, that's where my model lives that I want to take a look at. So we'll select that and we'll connect. And the server happens to be, it's running locally on this machine, so we're going to say local, and it has an instance name of tab 2016. So this is a tabular model. If any of you have worked with the analysis services models, this is a tabular model that we're going to make use of here. And it happens to be max min manufacturing. So this is a model that shows manufacturing of various figurines. Max Min is a company that I made up for my business intelligence book that manufactures these various figurines of dragons and trolls and all kinds of other things, lighthouses. And then this is where the magic happens here. I'm going to say I want to connect to that model. I don't want to extract any data from it. I want to use the data as it sits in that model. So that's this Connect Live or Live Connect feature of Power BI. So I'm going to make sure that that is selected, and we'll click OK.
If you import, can you lose the connection to the security model?
If you import, can you lose the selection to the security model? So the answer is yes. So if you have an existing data source and there is security built around that data source based on who is making the connection, with Live Connect, I am connecting as myself, and so all of that security is intact. I can only see what I have rights to. If I'm going to, instead of Live Connect, if I chose import, which means I'm going to bring the data into my own model now that I'm creating locally in Power BI. So that's the other use of Power BI. I'm going to connect to that data source as the creator, as the author, and pull that data in. And now that data is sitting in my own model. So any of that security that was there, if I can see data but you can't, now it's in my model because I could see it. And so if I open that up to you, now you can see it. That definition, we're just pulling the data, we're not pulling any of the metadata around it. So I would have to recreate that security in my model that I'm making in order for that to be in place. Good question. So that's one of the advantages of Live Connect is You've got IT that's maintaining that enterprise level model, and they're setting up security. And so as I'm connecting with my credentials, all that security remains in place. I've got a couple of different perspectives or different ways to look at this data. We'll go with the max-min manufacturing perspective here and click OK. That just limits how much data I can see. So now over here on the right, and let me take a moment and zoom it so we can take a closer look. So there's my field list. Those are tables that are defined for me in my model. So I didn't have to do anything. All of that came in. All of the relationships between those tables are there for me to utilize. So I'm going to look at the manufacturing information. And so there's all of the field. Let's try that again. There we go. Those are all of the fields in the manufacturing info table in the model. And you can see there's lots of different business measures that are already created for me. I already have a calculation that will give me last year numbers. I already have a calculation that will give me year-to-date numbers. I have a calculation that will take the accepted products and the rejected products to give me the total products that were produced. Those that passed the QA process and those that ultimately didn't as they came off the assembly line to get total product. Year-over-year growth percent, all those things that are tough to calculate if you're going to do your own stuff in Excel are easy because all I do is drag and drop them onto my output here. So let's see how that works. I'm going to go ahead and take the accepted products, and I'm going to take the accepted products last year so I can compare this year to last year. And there we go. Let's see, we can make this a little bit better. Actual size, and we'll zoom in here. So as you see, it creates presentation ready graphics as soon as I click and put something onto my layout area. Let's go ahead and we'll slice that by product hierarchy here. And let's make that a little bigger. So you can see now we've got that broken down by my 3 different product lines or product types. Now, this year over last year doesn't do me much good unless I have some type of time reference available. So I'm going to come over here to my timetable and grab the date hierarchy. And then I'm going to make this a slicer so the user can interact with it. So now I can pick 2015, and I'm seeing just the 2015 numbers, and then the black or dark gray is last year's or 2014 numbers, so I can see that comparison. And I can easily switch from one to the next to the next. So all of that is available. 2013 doesn't have any last year information. I can also, I've got a hover over feature here so I can see the underlying numbers. I can right click, and I've got several options here. One is to see the data, so I can actually turn that on and see the underlying data. And I apologize, Power BI has very small fonts, so I'm sorry to have to keep zooming here, but I'll do that so you can look at it. I can return to the report. I can drill down, so I can right click and let's drill down into Warriors of Yore, and now here are the 4 products that are product subtypes that are available within that product type. And I can drill down again into one of those and see all the individual products. So I've got that drill down, and here's my drill up button. If I want to, when I click on something, it selects it and highlights it. And also if I have another visualization here, let's do rejected products real quick, and we'll do that by product hierarchy. You can see that when I click one here, it highlights the corresponding data in another chart as well. If I drill down here, So now I'm just looking at the Napoleonic Wars product subtype, and this is the percentage, that's the rejected bar for that corresponding. So I can do some very nice analysis very quickly in this type of setup. I can also turn on a one-click drill down, so instead of highlighting now, if I click something, it actually drills into that item. And then I can drill back up. So you can see, using Power BI as the data visualization tool on an existing model, I can get to that data intelligence very quickly, because all of that hard work of modeling has been done for me by the IT department and security and all that, all that boring stuff that we do, so that a user can go in, access the data, and start using all the whiz-bang visualization features of Power BI. Let me show you one other thing here. This is, if I take away my slicer and recreate it in a little different format here, we'll turn off year. I'm going to put month on the layout here. So I need to uncheck year, uncheck quarter in my hierarchy, and make that the slicer. Now I've got a list of months that I can select to see the data, and then it shows me this month over same month last year, because my measure over here is smart enough to do that. Whatever I'm looking at, month, quarter, year, day, it knows, okay, I'm going to compare that against the same period last year. But this gets kind of long and ugly. New feature, just out, I can now change this to a drop-down and use this as a drop-down list rather than a slicer. So I can make my selections and then it goes away. So very nice. Yep.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Just looking at, okay, so I don't know what these products are, but can you create hierarchies or aggregates for those things where you're saying, okay, give me the, I don't know, mystery games versus...
I can, and actually, I won't try and demo that because I'll mess it up, but that's actually a brand new feature where you can multi-select multiple items on a chart and create a group out of those items.
You know, if you're thinking of locations in the States.
Right,
you know,
oh, absolutely,
build
absolutely,
regions and things like that.
absolutely. So I can go down here, maybe if you won't hold it against me, I might be brave here. But you can see I've got several different types of military figures here, and maybe I want to create, here's my British cavalry person. Like I said, see, I told you. No, it's new. I don't know how to use. I don't know how to do that yet. It's brand new. But yes, you can create those ad hoc groupings. Yeah. Good question. Good question. I'm going to get rid of this time slicer one more time and recreate it now at the date level. And down at the date level, we'll make that a slicer. This is also a brand new item where instead of picking a date, this is how it used to be, where I'd have to pick an individual date and scroll down through, blah, blah, blah. Instead of doing that now, I can change this and make it a date range slider. So I can move this and get any ad hoc date range that I want. I can pick from a calendar as well, if you'd rather do that. That's a very nice feature. I can do, instead of between, I can do before. I can do after, or go back to my list or my drop-down. So again, new feature. So one of the things I want you to take away from this is Power BI is constantly changing. So if you implement Power BI in your organization, one of the things you want to do is have a mechanism where your users can stay up to date on the new features that are coming out monthly. Because this is a nice feature, that date slider, the grouping, the ad hoc grouping, that's going to be a tremendous feature for analysis But if you don't stay current on those features that come out every month, your users aren't going to know about those great features and are not going to get the decision-making support that they could from the product.
When I see the term like a product hierarchy there,
Yeah.
is that not, okay, so you have product type.
Yeah, here, I'll zoom in here. Yep.
Oh, I see. So, under the product hierarchy, you're not seeing the products themselves, you're seeing just the,
We've got
the
product type
dimensional
to sub,
values
yeah.
type of
Mm-hmm.
thing. Okay.
Okay, yeah, other questions?
On the updates, how is that pushed out? Is that,
How are the updates pushed out?
Yeah.
So, you'll actually download a new copy of the Power BI desktop. And so we can do that.
and then like that slider feature, that slicer
Yep.
has new functionality. Will that back implement into the slicer feature?
So I think what will happen, and I haven't tried this, but I think what will happen is if you had a slicer that was at the day level or the date level, it's probably going to come in and by default be, you know, the old functionality. And I would guess you'd have to open that up in the development environment and you'd have to go ahead and select the new functionality. I don't think it's going to auto implement that.
And then republish.
And then republish. Yep, yep. When I have content, and I apologize, I'm running a little short of time here. When I have content that is ready to share, then I simply click publish here, and that will contact. Okay, we'll save my changes. So that will contact PowerBI.com. I've already stored my username and password, my PowerBI.com username and password. And now it knows I've got various workspaces that are named and defined on PowerBI.com, so I can tell it where to store this data and visualization. If the data is imported into the data model, remember this is Live Connect, but if instead I had imported that data into my model, that data goes with the model and visualization up to PowerBI.com. So your data is going to be stored, if you're importing, on PowerBI.com. I have confidence that as well as the data can be secured, it's going to be secured in that environment. Nothing is, in this day and age, nothing is absolute ironclad guaranteed. We've seen too many data breaches here, there, and everywhere. As well as things can be secured, it's going to be secured. Microsoft has passed, the various government and other security types of ratings and inspections, so nothing's for sure, but it is going to be secure there. It's sent, through an HTTPS connection, so it's going to be encrypted while it's en route.
So if you store the model with the file and send it up there, is there a mechanism if you're viewing it to refresh that data, or would it have to be republished?
That's a great question, because that's just what I was going to talk about
Oh,
next.
great.
I'll give you a tip later. So, if I publish that data up there, how do I get it to refresh? So my, whatever source that it's coming from has new data, how do I refresh it? I can refresh my model and republish it. That's obviously not a great, that solution doesn't scale very well. What I can do is set up a data gateway. This is a product from Microsoft, and it runs in your environment. And let me switch back here to the slides. So this is an illustration of the data gateway. And the data gateway supports Power BI. It also supports some other Microsoft Cloud Azure functions and data stores as well. The way the data gateway works, when I ask this model to refresh, so either it's on a schedule or manually, the users ask for new data. The queries that pull the data from the data sources, along with the name of the data source and the credentials that are used to access it, that all gets encrypted, and that gets put on a queue here. There's an application that you have running on premises on a server. Ideally, it would be running on the server that hosts that data. Well, the farther it has to travel, the more lag time there's going to be. That application is going to pull this queue to see if there's anything waiting for it. It's going to do that very frequently. And it's going to see that query, it's going to bring it down, it's going to decrypt it, it's going to use those credentials to make the connection to the data source, whatever that may be, query that data, and send the query result back up to Power BI. Notice that the communication is always initiated here, always outbound. You don't have to open up any holes in your firewall for the gateway to function. It makes a secure HTTPS port 443 call. There's a couple other ports that it uses, 2 or 3 other ports, but it's always outbound. You aren't opening up any holes in your firewall. So it goes out, is there anything I should do? Nope. Anything I should do? Nope. Anything I should do? Oh, yep. Close it in. The same thing happens if I've got a Power BI model that's using that Live Connect function. So that Live Connect wants to talk to an analysis services model down here, even though it's being hosted up here in the cloud. So the query for that model is going to get packaged up. It's going to wait in the queue. This is going to query that queue, pull it down, query the data, send the data back up here, and then back up to the user. And if you scale things appropriately, there's not going to be a lot of lag time seen in that process. Yeah?
Instead of the Live Connect model, is there a way to schedule an import of your data?
Yes, yes. So if you've imported the data into your model here, you can absolutely schedule that so that every night at midnight or whatever, it's going to queue something up. New data is going to come up and populate that model. Absolutely. Great question. So that's the gateway feature. That provides that mechanism for the cloud model to securely access your on-premises data and interact with it that way. Other questions on Power BI? I'm sorry I didn't get to demo the modeling process.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, suppose you're a power user and you've got, products on the bottom and revenue, going up the graph type of thing. And you wanna know, okay, so I've got product A, I wanna know what percentage of revenue that is, or what percentage of total revenue that is, or maybe what percentage of some other item on the sheet. Is it flexible enough to allow the user to choose or create formulas based on what's in the data?
Yes, 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 absolutely, absolutely. All right. Okay, so I want to, in summary here, we'll certainly hang around and take more questions, but I want to be respectful of those who need to head out at 1 o'clock. These are the takeaways that I want you to get from today, if nothing else. Power BI is multiple tools, and there are several ways that those tools can be used. We can just use the data visualization portion of Power BI with some of our users that want to explore the data in an ad hoc manner, or we can use all of the tool set and let our users go out and create their own models as well as their own visualizations. There's also a third path, the third way. That sounds very, I don't know, what is that, Buddhist or whatever. There's a third way where that's called direct query. With direct query, that works with SQL Server relational data. And I can create a model, so I can create that metadata layer that has my business rules and my, my joins, my relationships, and my nice naming. But when it comes time to actually get the data, it isn't stored in Power BI. It goes out and queries it from SQL Server. So it stays in the relational database on SQL Server, and Power BI is just always querying to get the latest and greatest data. And that works really well with some of the SQL 2014 and SQL 2016 optimizations and indexing that has been built in. So I can do that type of ad hoc exploration against relational tables in SQL Server very quickly. So that way I'm always querying live data, but I've still got that metadata layer that's been defined for the user. So that's the third way to use Power BI. Power BI has a wide variety of data sources, as we talked about, and there are new data sources added with each monthly release. Hard to believe that there are still things to be pulled in, but there are. Power BI lives in three places. We've got the development environment in Power BI desktop. We've got the cloud where we deploy it to PowerBI.com, and we have the developing on-premises environment where a Power BI file can live. Rapidly changing. Every month, new features. So put together some mechanism for keeping your organization and your users up to speed on what's new. And that's, a little plug here, that's one of the reasons why we founded the Power BI Professional Idea Network, to have that forum where users can talk about what's new, find out what's new, as well as sharing this is something cool, or this is a problem that I solved, or can you help me solve this problem in Power BI. And finally, and I haven't talked about this yet, Power BI is expandable. There are new, in addition to Microsoft creating visualizations for Power BI, users can create their own visualizations as well. So there is a web page here called Power BI, the Power BI Visuals Gallery. These are visualizations that were created by third parties. So a number of different things that you can download that Microsoft has vetted and then utilize within your Power BI environment. Including one here called the Aquarium, the Enlightened Aquarium, where the fish swim back and forth, and the larger the fish is, the larger the value it represents. If you have a negative number on your visualization, the fish swims upside down. So being a big fish in a small pond takes on a whole new meaning with that one. In addition to that, Power BI also supports R. R is an analysis language, a mathematical analysis, statistics analysis language, and it also includes mechanisms for creating data visualizations as well as all the calculations behind it. And you can take those custom R visualizations and you can incorporate those into Power BI as well. So there's two mechanisms for expanding Power BI beyond what Microsoft is delivering these days. All right. Any final questions? We've gone through all these. Final questions, yeah.
Where can we get more information about the data modeling process?
I'll come out and do a one-on-one session with you guys, with anyone here. My apologies for not getting to that. There is also there's a blog that is on the powerbi.com. If you go to powerbi.com, you'll see a link to the blog. And unlike in the past, the blog entries, there's lots of videos there. It's very approachable stuff that the Microsoft team has been putting out there. So that's a good resource for those types of things. Again, you gave me the opening, so I'm going to take it. My business intelligence book, delivering SQL Server with or delivering business intelligence with SQL Server 2016. That book includes a number of chapters on Power BI. Of course, that was Power BI as it was back this summer. So I'm working on some mechanisms for updating and providing a way to keep current on that. But that gives you, will walk you through the modeling process and creating measures and the formula language and those types of things. So that's another option if you want to go that way as well. And we, myself and others here at SCS, we love to do training sessions, love to do mentoring sessions. So if you've got a group that you're getting started with Power BI, we're certainly available to come out and do a half day, full day, whatever is appropriate session that walks people through Power BI, get them started and make them comfortable with either just the visualization piece or the modeling and the visualization. Other questions? All right, thank you very much. I appreciate you stepping out today and spending some time with us. And hopefully this was some good stuff. And then I'll hang around to ask any other or answer any other specific questions you might have. Thank you.
So at one point you had mentioned like Tableau and point and click.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What might be some of the limits